Hello, my name is Matt Oswalt with KeepingItClassless.net, and I'm here to talk to you today about my PowerShell script. Now, I created this as a submission to the Cisco Power Tool contest for Cisco UCS. Cisco created a contest that basically says, develop cool scripts for Cisco UCS. And I have actually had this script in my arsenal for a while. I've put it on GitHub through another library that I was creating, but I wanted to call this out specifically because there was one category they set up that was cross-module integration. And I think I have a really good use case here. So I'd like to share it with you and kind of explain what I've been using this for. Now, my UCS background comes primarily from, or at least it originally came from my experience in building FlexPods. So naturally, I had a lot of time to play with both UCS and NetApp storage and Cisco 5Ks for storage and Ethernet network connectivity, in addition to VMware on top. So I'm very, very accustomed to doing that exact thing: module integration, cross-module integration. So I call my script storage trueUp, and it contains two functions. The first function will basically create your boot LUNs and your initiator groups in NetApp based off of your Cisco UCS configuration. It'll do all of that for you essentially. I mean, it's designed to be just completely hands-free. So no arguments required other than obviously username and passwords and IP addresses for everything, and a few other odds and ends to create, make sure that the boot volumes, referring to the right boot volumes, things like that. But once all of that's entered, it's fairly hands-free. The second one automatically creates a fiber channel zoning configuration. Now, there are a few contest entries that do this already, not to mention the plethora of scripts out there that aren't part of this contest that I've seen that does this. But I've added one feature, and that is the ability to not define your targets statically. So you don't need to define those in the script. What it'll do is it'll reach into the UCS, and it'll pull the currently used targets in the boot policy. And it's on a per service profile basis, so you could use different boot policies for different service profiles if you wanted to. The zoning configuration would match to reflect that. Now, that's hugely useful if you want to create different boot policies for different service profiles and still not have to type any WWPNs manually or copy paste or any of that nonsense that I don't like doing. So keep that in mind. Those are the two functions here, and I'm going to do a brief demo of the script. This is our script here, and don't look at these versions. I haven't triple checked these yet. I think they're reasonably accurate. I just haven't gone through and done the verification. Look in the description of this video. I'm going to post a link to the GitHub. I'm going to post this to GitHub, and I'll post the link there in the description. In addition to maybe a blog post. I'll probably write a blog post about this. So these are our two functions here: update Cisco BFS and generate FC switch config. Now, the first function that's there doesn't require any arguments, but the second function does. And I'm going to reorder those to match that because I'm OCD about that. And I would like to first show you the variables. These are very self-explanatory for the most part. These are all NetApp variables that I'm going to be using in the functions below. Very straightforward: IP address, username, password, port set, vServer, and boot volume. And then UCS, you've got IP address, username, password, the boot policy to refer to if you want to, and then also the organization. I always use suborgs in my UCS configuration, so that's why I'm specifying it there. Once that is all set, you should be ready to. Oh, and one last thing: config file. This is important because this is where the config file will be dumped in the event that you're doing the generate FC switch config. So that's where we're going to go grab our config file. One other thing to note, right now I'm statically defining the LUN size in this function. So if you want LUNs bigger than 500 megabytes, which you probably do, go ahead and tweak that value. But that should be really the only thing you need to tweak inside the function. So let's run this, shall we? Before I do that, in Firefox I have System Manager open just to show you that there's no LUNs in existence on this NetApp emulator, at least right now. Yep, no LUNs, and same with initiator groups. We'll go over there. No initiator groups there, so totally blank. And we can now run our script. So we're going to run it. It's going to connect to the NetApp emulator. It's connected to the UCS emulator now. And it went by very fast, but what it first did was it created all the LUNs we needed. So you can scroll up and kind of see that. Creating iGroup named ESXi2. There's one for ESXi1 above it. Adding the WWPN. And then adding the WWPN. If we go to the System Manager once more and refresh, we'll see that not only do the LUNs exist, but they have been mapped to the initiator group, which has also been created, ESXi1, and the initiators have been added and mapped to the LUN. So with the click of a button, we've added all of this stuff into the NetApp based entirely off of what's in UCS. So then, let's create a new service profile. We've done everything by a template, so it's no hard task to spawn a new one. Hopefully Java doesn't give me any grief here. Create service profiles from template, and we just want to use the same naming prefix ESXi dash and number of instance 1. So it's creating it creates 1. My bad. Typo 1. My bad. Number of instances 1, but we want the starting number to be 3. There we go. It helps if you type the right number, Matt. So it's creating the service profile from this template, and it is finished. So we now have ESXi 3. So I've made no changes to my script. The only thing I've done is I've provisioned a new service profile. So we'll go back and we'll run it again, and you're going to see something interesting this time. This time I run the script. It actually skips over the first 2 service profiles. It's smart enough to know that the NetApp array already has those LUNs in its configuration. So it skipped over them and it immediately went on to the third, creating those as necessary. So the reason I built that function in is because at the time I was testing some cool stuff in VMware that was related to auto deploy. So it was very necessary for me to very quickly delete LUNs and then recreate them. This script allowed me to do that, and I figured it'd be useful to put that out there because it's very, very hands off. You just basically click the button once you've done a new service profile creation. So that's the first function, and I think that's pretty useful. But the other thing is that FC switch config. You'll notice that we already ran that with the arguments statically defining the targets. So let's look at the configuration that we've created. Under config.txt, looks like we have a full device alias database, which will allow us to map service profiles to to WWPNs. You'll notice that I've concatenated in the service profile to the VHBA name. That way you know which is which and which WWPN it's bound to. The targets in each zone are the ones that we statically defined, and everything's kept separately. The initiator is each service profile. Now that's great, but let's use the other method. Let's actually go back and uncomment this second entry, which is really just taking those arguments away. We will rerun the script. Update NetApp Cisco BFS is going to realize that all the LUNs exist that we need. So it's going to skip over all of those. As you can see, it did that. And it's recreating our config.txt. So let's go ahead and take another look at that zoning configuration. You'll see now that the targets have been changed to reflect what was in the UCS boot policy. And those are, if you click on ESXi 3, for instance, and boot order, those are the WWPNs used here. So what we've done is we've created a zoning configuration based off of the WWPNs on the boot policy, or if you wanted to statically define them, you could do that there as well.